Hello and welcome to Bit Inning. Let's start the second inning of new life, new crypto inning, or new inning that you start in your life. You have two lives. We always say that, and one life is once that what life before Bitcoin, and the other part of your life is when once you meet Bitcoin, and once you meet crypto. So welcome to the show. And today we have Christina from Graph Advocate DAO, and today we are going to discuss about Graph Advocate DAO, how you can contribute to that, how you can be a part of that, how you can be a part of that wonderful ecosystem where you can put in your energy, showcase your talent, what, and do things at your own pace, contribute to the ecosystem, and then you end up gaining something, not just in terms of monetary rewards but also in terms of meeting amazing people, networking with some amazing people, getting amazing experience by interacting with various people. So I think this is an amazing opportunity for you, for not just to earn rewards or earn monetary incentive. Obviously that is there, but other than that, you'll get to learn that how you can be part of various DAOs, especially as reputed as Graph Advocate DAO. So to begin with, I'll definitely touch upon what is DAO. To be honest, first you need to understand that what is DAO. Then only you'll say, okay, DAOs are like this, because I know many people today who are listening to us might not be knowing that what is a DAO. So first you will tell you what is a DAO. That obviously Pranav will try and tell you, and then we'll jump on to Graph Advocate DAO, and then we'll also jump on to what is Graph, what are they doing, and what is Graph Advocate DAO, and then Christina will let us know how things are evolving there and how you can be a part of that amazing, vibrant ecosystem. So welcome Christina and welcome Pranav to the show. So Pranav, let's begin with DAO, and you can tell us what is DAO. You can help people understand that in your own simple way, and then we'll ask questions from Christina.
Yeah, first of all, to the audience, we are really sorry. We all of the time cannot get speakers who can only speak Hindi, right? We need to go
Obviously.
international so that we can have international exposure to whatever, good things that are happening in the Web3 ecosystem. All of us know that Web3 is international. Hence, we need to get, people who can speak English. Christina is a very fast English speaker, but we have requested her to be go a little slow. So we should all praise her for accommodating this kind of a stuff, this kind of a thing. Regarding the Graph Advocate DAO, I was specially very keen, and I told Kashif that we need to do this video because there are a lot of Indians providing real value to the Web3 ecosystem, and are very much interested and excited about what the graph brings on the table in the Web3 world, and are very keen to give their contributions, but they don't know how to start. And Graph Advocates DAO is one such organization or a tool which can help you not just get incentivization on the contributions you make, but be connected to the right kind of people in the organization around the Graph ecosystem, so that you can build something great of your own on top of this protocol. Remember this cypherpunk team that I believe, in my opinion, eventually was one of the starting points to cryptography and Bitcoin and whatever was related to that. What that was also just a community of people talking about what great things can come out of that particular technology. Similar, in my belief, is the case with what the Graph protocol right now stands at. It's a protocol that many people can build good structurized businesses on, as well as have some kind of great, as well as have some kind of great guidance to do the same via the Graph Advocates DAO. As far as what the DAO part of the whole organization is concerned, I would say a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, is an organization in which you're not given any position or any kind of a hierarchical structure in which you'll be paid only if your boss likes you. It's rather, if you contribute and that contribution makes sense, then the DAO, or the democracy of an organization eventually decides whether you should be incentivized for the same, or whether you should not be, or you could not be incentivized for doing something like that. So a decentralized autonomous organization is like an organization of the dream world, in which, just imagine, you don't have a boss, you'd rather just have your work, and you contribute, and based on your contribution you are being paid. There is no political organizational nonsense, no hierarchical shit. It's rather you work and you get paid. This is like an ideal decentralized autonomous organization, and I think Graph Advocates DAO is trying to do something in similar senses. So, given that, we've talked about the Graph Advocates DAO so highly, we've talked about the DAO structure so highly, I would want Christina to give us an information as to how this Graph Advocates DAO as a theme got started, and how did you get involved in the Graph Advocates DAO as one of the first initial members of the Graph Advocates DAO?
Yeah, so just give you kind of like quick intro. I've been a graph advocate and an Advocates DAO member since Wave Zero. So it's been about a year and a half since the DAO launched. I was like fortunate enough to be invited as a DAO member like right from the beginning, and it was kind of just out of my curiosity that I like got involved. I was just consuming all this information, just trying to like learn more about Web3 and blockchain and all the things. And I ran into some videos where I saw someone speaking about the graph, and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. And I just kind of like, my curiosity just drove me to just like get involved and start asking questions. And I reached out to Tegan Klein, who's now CEO of VeggieNode, and she just did a quick informational interview with me, and kind of the rest is history. I just like stayed involved and I just stayed curious. So now like a year and a half later, I'm on the operations committee and the advocates committee for the DAO. I'm just like involved in lots, probably too many things. I tend to kind of like want to do everything. But mainly I'm on the finance team, where we just figure out how much grant funding to request each quarter, and so we're looking at that. We're also working on switching from Arbitrum to Arbitrum from Gnosis, so that's kind of like one of the initiatives that we're working on there. I'm also on like the events team inside the DAO, which is a new team that's being formed. We're starting to take over more of the events that the foundation has previously done. I'm on the application team, so I'm reviewing applications for advocates, and I actually just passed my seat on the application team to somebody who is in Asia, which is really exciting, because part of a big initiative is to make the DAO like global. So we now have a seat for somebody to do interviews in Asia, and so that's kind of like opens everything up to be more global. And then I'm also on the contribution team, where we're just reviewing advocate contributions, kind of assessing those, and then helping to distribute advocate grants there.
Awesome. Seems
my
like
question, my question here is, Christina, just imagine that there are many people who are listening to you, don't have any experience of working in a DAO structure. They are just listening to you, and now they are probably, by the end of this show, they will get curious. They'll say, oh wow, I want to contribute. So I just want to understand from you that how somebody who doesn't have an experience but have the desire or have the willpower to contribute to the ecosystem, how that individual can begin his basic journey to work for a DAO like Graph Advocate.
Yeah, I mean, I had no experience with working with a DAO either. Okay. And I just, I kind of like, oh, here is a DAO. Like, how do I how do I get involved? Like, I just started to be curious about it. My background is, I had a small business, so I had this kind of operational background. DAOs are just like any other organization, where you have a mission in mind that you're trying to accomplish, and you need a lot of people to get there. You need a lot of people that do different types of jobs in order to accomplish that mission. So, my background is more in like operations. I actually came from like events, so I was like already really good with like kind of like logistics of things, and running a business. So there's lots of different pieces that go into that. So for me, a lot of I think why I was a good fit for the DAO from the beginning was because I knew how to like start a business, and it's starting a DAO is a very different structure as far as like everybody makes decisions together, and it's really more a collaborative environment versus a company where you have a boss and you have managers and people to answer to. It's much more collaborative. Everybody's opinions and ideas are gathered and discussed, and there's a lot of voting that goes on, just impromptu voting, like, okay, how does everybody feel about this? But yeah, I from my perspective, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I knew the concept of an organization that was, that didn't have that kind of hierarchy, where it wasn't like your traditional organization, was what I was getting into. But there's a lot of still similarities with just a regular organization as well.
Okay.
Awesome. That looks super interesting. But there might be a question that might come up while so the thing is, the graph is a protocol, right? And it's kind of self-sustaining. Why does it need a grant program? And that's the first thing. And who should actually think of applying for a grant, given that they have done some kind of a work?
Yeah, so it's grant programs. It's really about growing the graph ecosystem and supporting this decentralized Web3. There's so many individuals that are out there that are doing things and making contributions, and having a way to reward them and support them is really crucial to the growth of the community. There's a ton of exciting projects and brilliant people in the Web3 space, and when someone comes up with an idea of how they can reach a group of people to expand the knowledge of the use of the graph, or even just something in general Web3, like the grants program really gives us just a tool to support and encourage that. I mean, this what we're doing right now is like a great example of that. So and this is just like one of the benefits of a decentralized ecosystem. Anyone can contribute, and it's open to all different kinds of ideas. The foundation also has a grants program as well. They focus a little bit more on the protocol tooling, subgraph side. There's also migration grants. So for projects that are migrating their subgraphs from our hosted service to our decentralized network, there's grants for that. All these different grants, they're there to help support people, help people to make the switch, to go to the fully decentralized network, things like that. And the Graph Advocates DAO is really about, just supporting more like community-based things. And I feel like on the path to decentralizing the ecosystem further and further, I just foresee that the DAOs in the ecosystem are going to begin to take on more of these different categories that the foundation has done before. We also have Builders DAO, which is more a DAO based around like subgraph building. And then we have Indexer DAO. So, and who knows, more might pop up in the next however many years.
Yeah, but who actually should first of all, what's the process of applying for a grant? Should you first be an advocate, then only you can apply for a grant?
No.
Or what's the process?
Yeah, so you don't need to be an advocate to apply for a community grant. There's two types of grants that the Advocates DAO distributes: community grants and advocate grants. So for community grants, these are $20,000 or less, things that are related to community building, like, for example, this podcast, multimedia type things, hackathons and sponsorships, things like guides, creating guides and tutorials, stuff like that. To get a community grant, you would apply. We have an application online, grants.graphadvocates.com. You fill out your application, it gets posted onto the forum. And, from there, the discussion starts to take place in public. We try to do as much of this out in the open as possible. So you can actually go to our forum, forum.graphadvocates.com, and see all like previous applications and see the conversations that took place, see what went well, what passed, and what didn't, things like that. And from there, the grant committee members are really the ones who kind of do the initial evaluation of that, and they will follow up with any kind of questions. And then they'll do a vote. The community actually gets to vote as well if they think something is a great idea. And then from there, if it's recommended from the grant committee, then the whole DAO will vote on it.
So I'll just give a a more visual thing of what Christina just explained. First of all, this is the Graph Advocates DAO website. You go here, you check what you can be, what are different roles. We'll definitely be talking about that in the show going ahead. But here are the grants, and this is all about community grants. Who actually can get a community grant? If you are doing a podcast, just like GRTIQ or what Web3 Ki Duniya does, we have been a Graph Advocate DAO grantee. And if you've done hackathons, there is a side project, you're doing some tutorial content, education program, community tooling like delegated tools. For example, the there is this organization known as, I forgot the name. Their name is Graphnauts. They have created a very good delegation tool. So if you create something like that, or a marketing or branding swag tool, right? Any of these, you are eligible for a community grant. If you think you are a part of any of these, then you should go and apply for a community grant. This is a form that will open, and this is where you fill the form and make sure you type the right details and things like that. Once that happens, then this thing is posted on their forum, and you'll get an email about it. And from here, there will be a discussion about this. This is a grant proposal for Web3 Ki Dunya. We also had a very, very, in my opinion at least, a big conversation as to why should we get a grant? This should be the amount. Why do you think that amount should be justified? And eventually, all the people voted to get the grant passed, and Web3 Ki Dunya became a Graph grantee. If you can see, this is very transparent. All you do is you feel that you think you are eligible for a grant based on the work that is actually given on their website for community grant. Apply on the forum, and then there is a process on the forum to get a grant. It's not like the Graph team knows me because I work at EdgeNode, and that's why they
Yeah.
sponsored Web3 Ki Dunya. It's not
that
nothing like that.
I Again, that's the beauty of it. I want to tell people here that we literally had to work like a, I kudos to Pranav. I still remember that Pranav has answered, queries like close to 20 to 25 queries he answered, because people kept asking questions about how he will be able to contribute it, how this podcast can help, what you will do. And first we had to show proof of work. So there were a lot of stuff that we did, and then Graph Advocate DAO took the note of that work, and then they asked so many questions, and then we were able to get this thing sorted. That's what I want to tell you. Everybody is at the same level in Graph DAO. It's not that suppose Pranav is working for Graph, so it will be easy for him. No, not at all. Everybody is at the same platform. If you have that desire and that will, you are alongside Pranav, and there will be no difference, and nobody will judge you that you are a newcomer and Pranav is a pro. Nobody is pro. Nobody is new. The only thing that is required is a system and your will and your desire to work. And if you're able to deliver, community themselves will decide that okay, this work need to be acknowledged and rewarded.
Correct. That's the beauty of the DAO, in general, and the Graph Advocates DAO has made sure that beauty remains. Coming back to the question, Christina, we have seen the community grants process. Now everybody is excited to get some money as well as work for the Graph, hopefully. Now I want to know what the grants committee actually is looking for. Like, what kind of work currently is being appreciated? Like, there might be like thousands of grants, most of them might not make sense, some of them might. So like, what could be a 101 starter for somebody who wants to work for the Graph and get some kind of incentives while getting his grants application being passed? So, like, what kind of applications are you guys looking at when you want to pass something in the community grants forum?
Yeah, a lot of what we're seeing now are, these communities being built. If you kind of look on the timeline, we're kind of at this scaling place where we have this big initiative of like becoming, global. We're doing a great job, I think, with that. But we want to like expand into these different communities. And so we've seen a lot of the grants up to this date have been like really about, like the Graph India community, for example, like creating these communities, and which is like a hub for all the people in that, geographical area to come and, find out more information about, like the graph just in general, just sharing the knowledge, like any kind of educational resource that we can do to help like expand the users, the number of people that know about the graph, developers that know about the graph. That's kind of a big push. That's like the goal, to get people to use the graph. And I mean, and it's also from a bigger perspective, like getting people to use decentralized protocols, like creating, for businesses that are building apps, making sure that they're using Web3 protocols that are truly Web3, truly decentralized. So just kind of sharing that concept with people and getting people on board with that. I think that's one of the big pushes there.
So in Crux, if somebody can create a good community and get them introduced to the Graph protocol and the ecosystem, then they should, like, their proof of work should be eligible to apply in the community grants forum and things like that. And that might include something like a podcast, something like a good technical write-up. What I've seen, like, I've gone through some of the advocates grants, and what I see is all they do is see a particular blog from the Graphs blog or from the Agent Node blog, copy it, make some changes using ChatGPT, and just apply for a grant. That
Yeah.
kind of work will not be, like, accepted,
No.
because you need to do something really, like,
Yeah.
impressive to make sure that people really attest to what is something different, but is in a way a good way to explain people about the graph, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, and if like a few examples that I've seen that have done really well, like kind of broken down by region. Like in Europe, we sponsored this educational hub called Digital Currency Academy, and they were just like all centered around educating people about Web3. So that was, I think, one of the earliest grants that we did. We have an advocate and a DAO member who does code-alongs. So he just talks about different programming languages, just all kinds of different things. He did a series on Rust for a little while, just really connecting with the developer community. So that was something that was supported. That was like more US based. Recently, we just did the India blockchain tour sponsorship. So there were 6 events that were in there, and that one was really great too, because whenever we're able to cross between the community grant side and the advocate grant side, which we haven't talked about too much yet, is really good, because for that we were able to sponsor the event, but we also had advocates that were there in person. So the impact was bigger. When you have just kind of your logo on a sign or something, it's not nearly as impactful as when you have somebody that's there that can answer questions, an advocate that understands what the graph is and can explain it to people, answer questions and all of that. So that was really great. And in Latin America, we've done, for example, we had some side events for ETH Santiago. We sponsored some side events there. There was also a blockchain like university tour in Africa that happened. And then we've got in Pakistan multiple grants to the Urdu community. So those are a couple examples of things that we're like excited about and proud of. But yeah, we don't necessarily accept a ton of of grants. It's not about quantity for us. It's really about quality. And so we're always, of course, having gone through the process yourselves, there's a lot of questions. We want to make sure that we're making good decisions, or we're being good stewards of this DRT funding that we're getting to distribute, to really make that really impactful.
Yeah. One specific thing that I would want to highlight in the build a billion reasons to build graph tour of Indian colleges, that kind of thing. I'll be actually in 5 to 6 different cities talking about subgraphs as well as how you can build one. And coming to one of the colleges near your city, we have like selected 6 or 7 cities, and one of the colleges is selected for each of these cities. And if you want to learn about the graph, build a subgraph, then all you need to go do is be present on that day in that particular college. And you need to build a subgraph, and there'll be some, of course, swag rewards for that. So that kind of program in which you are educating college students about building subgraphs is a very good grant that even a college community can apply. Like there are in India, there are so many college clubs that do tech fest and tech events, and they have a good amount of people. And by good amount in India, it means 1000 to 10,000, not America, which is 100 to 150. So that kind of volume, if you can reach by organizing as well as doing these kind of stuff which promotes the graph tech via subgraphs, then that's something that could be rewarded in general.
Right.
So that's something which is pretty awesome. Can you give us some examples of Indian grants that were passed, and you think are pretty proud, you are pretty proud of, are doing a really great job, like
Yeah,
few grants from India? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that the top one would be this India blockchain tour that was done most recently, like in the last couple months. There was a lot of coordination around it between getting the advocates there to be represented, but also like sponsoring that event. And then also like the India community too. So that's been really good. I know Charchit has been involved with that, like kind of helping to manage that community. I think he was just recently kind of awarded that like India community manager role. So yeah, those are really two things. I mean, it's really mostly what we're seeing are like event type things and communities where it's just maybe a Telegram group or something like that. We also don't want duplication of efforts anywhere. It's better to collaborate versus trying to like create your own thing. If you want to have kind of more of a local community and you want to kind of start with your local community and then maybe merge that into like a bigger community, that's good too. But yeah, those are two that I would say are kind of like ones that I would highlight in the India community.
All right. That's super interesting in my opinion. And yeah, the India tour as well as I know. So we were actually doing a hackathon in Kolkata, and there was a person who joined us and helped us man the booth in the hackathon in Kolkata, and he was given some reward for doing that because he knew about the graph, he knew the subgraph thing. He was a graph advocate, and he was helping us man the booth, explain people about the graph in the hackathon. uh, I think he was do we know how much money in roundabout that he was given? Because as again, this is a DAO, and everybody is transparent about how much money somebody is incentivized to. It's not like an American will be given in will be incentivized more and an Indian will be incentivized less. It's pretty geography neutral.
Yeah. I don't have like specifics about I could look it up, but I don't have it right in front of me. But we will ask advocates to like share, generally how much time do they think they spent on something for that. And I can kind of give a little overview of the advocates program as well. But we'll ask, how much time do you think you like put into this? And then we kind of also will like check around with other people, like, okay, if this person was at the booth, well, we try to, get the best understanding of like what you did. You send in a report on the different things you did and kind of break down the amount of time that you spent. And we have some baselines that we use to try to calculate like how much reward someone should get. And, you know, we have this point system. So we evaluate like the difficulty of what you're doing and like the performance rating. So we kind of have this like formula that calculates like how much of an advocate grant you would get for that kind of activity. So, you know, in a sense, it's different because you're only going to be rewarded for like how well you do. Versus, you know, just showing up and being there and not necessarily doing, you know, putting everything into it. That's maybe not going to get as much of a reward as if you're really, you know, making that solid effort too. So, you know, we are, again, it's like we're really looking for quality contributions from advocates. And, you know, I'd like to share a little bit about the 5 different roles that we have for the Advocates program. I don't think I've shared anything about that yet. So, you know, the Advocates program is one of the 2 pillars of what the Graph Advocates DAO is managing. And the Advocates program is really like this ambassador program. It's, you know, focused on just finding advocates for the Graph and supporting those people who are, you know, really passionate about the Graph and who have the vision for a decentralized Web3. So we have 5 roles. The first is event evangelists. These are people who host local events, they attend regional events and participate in online events or in-person events. We also have content creators, so they're creating content about Web3 and the Graph. This would be like articles, infographics, memes, or GIFs. Technical teachers, they are teaching, you know, creating courses, things like that on, you know, how to actively participate in Web3 and in the Graph ecosystem. We have text translators, so you know, we have a ton of text translation that has happened where they're translating all this Graph material, documentation, social posts even into other languages. It's just like this ongoing big project, and that's another initiative to just spread the word and get more people to understand, you know, the Graph. And then we have community care, and these are people that are answering questions in all the different channels, you know, the forum, Telegram, Discord, Reddit, on the Graph mostly. So those are the roles, and those are the difference between kind of the Advocates program and the Community Grants program. Really is like Advocates is really based around individuals that are contributing, and the Community Grants program is like if you have this kind of like one big initiative that you want to do, and maybe it's more of a team initiative, then it's more of a community grant. So sometimes there can be a little bit of gray area between the 2, but generally that's the difference. It's more of like individual versus kind of more of a team effort on the community grants side.
And I think like if you become there is also a process to be an advocate, right? It's not like
Right.
you apply and you become one. In the same page that I went to, there is apply for an advocate. Then there you are given a mail in which you schedule 2 calls with people to see if you have got the right knowledge that you think you have.
Right.
And then you become an advocate. After you become an advocate, from the form that you had selected, that I want to be a community care person or something like that, you then, like, you know, get onboarded via their onboarding call. And then, you know, if you are giving, let's say, 3 hours a week, and it's pretty fruitful, the grant committee pretty much checks everything that, you know, that you have put in these many hours, as you say, and they have been grateful, and based on that you're given certain rewards. So is it possible to reveal how much like, you know, incentives do people get
So
per
kind
hour?
of just the baseline around that is like generally like $30 an hour that's converted to GRT. So that's kind of like the baseline. But as I mentioned before, like there's kind of an assessment process of like, okay, verifying like, okay, really how many hours is this worth? And how, you know, what was the contribution? Like how difficult was it? You know, was it just like, you know, you did a little Twitter post or something like that's not going to get as much reward. You know, we try to really evaluate it, which is really a challenge. And as a DAO member, you know, that has been one of the things that we've tried to work through is like to really make this as, you know, a fair and, you know, we don't want to over reward or under reward. We really want to try to get the best kind of evaluation as that we can. But it is a challenge, being all across the world and, not always having eyes. So, I would say another thing we really appreciate is just honesty and, gathering as much information as possible. The best tool we have is just being able to read about what somebody is doing, and not a chat GPT. We're pretty pretty good at kind of identifying what's real and what's not. We see a lot of that now. It's a great technology, but for the authenticity, being able to share what are you really working on, and giving us a really good idea so that we can make a good, fair evaluation. That's really important.
So this is very important what you said. So all the listener who is listening to this show, I mean, just imagine if you're in your current job. Say, suppose you have this main hustle, you are in your job, and then in your remaining time, just think of it as a side hustle, maybe to begin with. Many people say that they want to transition from Web 2 to Web 3 in their careers, but they don't know what will be that point when they think that they're ready for it. So there won't be any time. Let me be very honest. Transition happens gradually. So transition happens slowly. So me personally, as an example, I was working for a corporate, and there was not a single point where there was not like I took this instant decision of, okay, this is the day I'm going to Web3. No, it was very gradual. I was working, and then slowly I entered into it. Then I started working, started hustling in my free time. So so this is a great way to transition yourself from your main hustle to side hustle, and then make this side hustle as your main hustle. So this is an amazing way to experiment. Take it as an opportunity where you say, okay, if you want to see that, are you fit for it? Do you have it in you? Do you have a passion for this industry? If you have, you will definitely succeed. But if you don't have, you'll see that you'll be a little reluctant, and you'll say, no, I think I was just way too hopeful about it, but I'm not enjoying it. So probably this is a great opportunity to test yourself, and trust me, if you like it, you'll end up growing. And that's how Pranav has grown, that's how I personally have grown, and that's how Christina just told her story in a very honest way, that from where she started as a side hustle in it, and today she's doing really well. So I think
Right.
it's a great opportunity.
And also, Kashif, when you were trying to grow, like you were in your corporate advertisement job, and you
Yeah,
wanted to shift to Web3. I don't think there were programs based on your efforts that you were
yeah,
putting in Web3, and everybody knows
absolutely.
about crypto kanun, that you were incentivized for keep on doing that as a sustainable thing. And now we
Yeah,
have something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the Graph Advocates program has a very reasonable kind of minimum about what we're looking for advocates to contribute as well. So, if you have like 2 hours a week or something, a week, not even every single night, there's a place to start contributing. And, like just what you can gain from in expanding your network is huge. The advocates program, there's all this other educational information that's kind of exclusive to advocates. We have a learning series. We've had all the core developers from the Graph come to do a learning series. So you get kind of like an inside information about what all of them are working on, like up to date, sort of up to the minute information. I remember also when I first joined the DAO, I didn't know anybody, and then all of a sudden, I had this huge network of people. So just like the velocity of expanding your network is super valuable. You've got some opportunity to go to events. We're we're kind of running into more and more, we can only send so many people to events. But that's like a huge benefit of it as well. Some recognition in the community is too, and also just like being part of a community. I think that was like the biggest thing for me, is like just joining a particular community. If you're kind of out there and you're interested in the Web3 space, like finding some kind of community that can give you direction is, I think, really, really important. And the Graph Advocates programs are a great way to find that, I think.
Yeah, and I would want to share an example of the same. There was a person who is now full time at the Graph, known as Paulo. He's a very good friend of mine. He was once a Graph advocate, and he was also like seeing it as a side hustle. He started doing. He was an advocate. He was contributing to the DAO. He was helping in a lot of ways, and eventually he thought that, yeah, this is something I want to do full time, and he gathered the right kind of connections, as well as he had the right kind of portfolio and contributions that went into his resume, and eventually he was hired at the foundation to lead communities. So these are such examples in which you start as a side hustle, and eventually you can make it your main thing if you think this is something that can lead, that you're passionate about, and is something that you can totally work towards. So that's of course a program that I feel a lot of. So India has a lot of a lot of students crowd which has a lot of spare time if they don't put it in other things.
Yes.
So so if they do, they can be interested in the Graph, understand the scope, first of all get and read and know about what's the requirements of the DAO, see the different roles that are available, and then start contributing so that eventually they are ready for the Web3 world, not just the Graph but around the Web3 world. So that's again a great thing. I think this has been a great and very useful discussion, and I think all of people might be able to learn how they can first of all start as a side hustle, being an advocate, and eventually convert that into a main goal. But given that this podcast has a lot of distribution in India, and we've been doing great numbers thanks to Kashif and his popularity on Twitter, that we've been able to do great numbers. A lot of Indians are always hopeful to get something out of the podcast, and I think they have got it done. But we want to know specifically. I know the Advocates DAO is pretty global, and you have all the global things. What is the Advocates DAO grants program looking out of India? Like, what do you guys want from India as a geographical location?
Yeah, I would say, just continuing to build that community, thanks to the efforts of like the Graph India community, we've seen a lot more actual like applications, like qualified applications, people that are interested in becoming advocates. I think we have about 60 advocates in India right now. It's just been kind of rapidly increasing because of all of the activity. It's kind of this exponential thing where like we did the India blockchain tour, and then we have this India community group that's been growing. So just being part of that community and then applying to be an advocate. I think that the number one thing is to, like, if you want to be an advocate, is to really like be aligned and understand that mission, that advocates are there to like drive the participation of and the building of a decentralized Web3 and to grow the Graph ecosystem. Like, that's what the true mission is. And if that resonates with you, that's a first great step to applying or becoming an advocate. And I would say just like start engaging with the Graph ecosystem. There's tons of information out there. The GRTIQ podcast has like every person, I feel like all of the key people in the Graph ecosystem, like core developers, the DAOs, the foundation, they are there and they're sharing their stories, and there's so much information to gain from listening to that. There's events on Discord, not only just the Graph Discord, there's a lot of events going on there. The AdvocatesDAO Discord also has like a public area, so you can start, listening into some of our public meetings. There's a lot of other Graph related Discord channels as well, like Graftronauts, and kind of just like figuring out which piece of this huge ecosystem that interests you most and where you can like contribute the most value, and kind of taking that, just learning through that avenue, and then coming back in as an advocate and sharing it with other people. That's really I think the biggest ask is just to really be genuinely interested and an advocate, and then apply and then share with others, and help us to scale.
Kashif, any closing thoughts?
I think this is very important for people to understand that nothing will come. Nobody's going to serve you, in a silver spoon, and nobody's going to feed you. You have to take the initiatives. Things are available, resources are available, teams are available, protocols are available, DAOs are available. You have to take the initiative, and you have this podcast where we are giving you ample lot of example, and we are sharing our own story that we were able to do it. Why can't you? You just need that desire, that willpower, and it can happen that you might not end up getting any reward. You might feel that I didn't got anything, but trust me, when you do something, when you experiment something, when you try something, when you put in energy, you end up gaining something. You will be a better individual than before. You will be a well informed individual than before, and you will meet some amazing people. Trust me. So this is my closing remarks, and that was the whole objective of doing this podcast. It was to make you inform. At times you feel that how to begin my journey, how to contribute, how to be a part of this ecosystem. This is the way. So that was my closing remarks.
100%. The Advocates DAO is kind of a bootstrap for you to get into Web3. But the only thing that I feel, and honestly, I have been helping Colson and Christina a little bit on the backgrounds with the checks on the Indian applications, and it's and I would say there are a lot of applications which come with very little efforts. So, I think given how generous these people are on the rewards given in grants, I think all of us can put in more efforts, create the right value, and be genuine and honest in what we do. So, if you are that, then the sky is the limit. The Advocates DAO is an actual DAO in which, if you do real work, that can be shown, and based on that, you will be rewarded more than what you want. So be that, and scale your journey to Web3 via these kind of advocates programs. The Web3 Ki Dunia podcast is powered by the Graph Advocates DAO. They have been gracious enough to give us a grant, although after a lot of discussions, but they have given us the grant for that, and they found us doing genuine work, and that is the reason they were encouraged our efforts to doing something like that. Maybe in the future we'll have Christina and the DAO members again to talk about how, the as an Indian, or how does the DAO looks at India? What are the different examples of Indians doing great work out of the DAO, and how Indians in general and the Hindi-speaking subcontinent can get more value out of it. So for now, I would like to thank Christina for the great ample of information that she has given us, and we'll see her soon next time.
Thank you so much to you both. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Christina.